Fighting for Burkina Faso alone. We are fighting for Africa. We are fighting for black people. We are fighting for the dignity of Africa. We are fighting for the well-being of our people. And who fights for the dignity and well-being of its people also carries something in their heart. We stand wholeheartedly with all peoples who fight for justice, for equality, for well-being. And we are friends to all peoples who respect us and who respect our sovereignty and our dignity.
Every year in Burkina Faso, thousands of journeys end the same way. Twisted metal on the roadside, crowds gathering in silence, families getting the call they fear most. Road accidents have quietly become one of the country's deadliest killers, taking more than 1,000 lives every single year. For a long time, this tragedy was treated as routine. Accidents happen. Roads are dangerous. People move on. But now, for the first time, the Burkina Faso state is preparing a nationwide response. In Ouagadougou, officials, security chiefs, doctors, and engineers are finalizing a national road safety strategy for 2026 to 2030, a plan meant to cut those deaths in half. And as news of this plan spreads, something unusual is happening outside official halls. Drivers are whispering about cameras, about fines sent to phones, about the end of roadside bargaining. Are these just rumors or the first signs of a major shift in how Burkina Faso controls its roads? Let's find out. It didn't begin with a law. It didn't begin with a press conference. It began the way most big changes begin in Burkina Faso, quietly, through people. Drivers on the Ouagadougou-Bobo road started saying the same thing. Taxi riders repeated it. Motorbike mechanics joked about it. Somewhere, someone had heard that soon, the road itself would be watching. The days of arguing with traffic police were coming to an end. Soon, cameras would replace whistles and screens would replace checkpoints. At first, it sounded like just another rumor, the kind that fills WhatsApp groups and disappears a week later. But this one didn't fade. It spread. Because behind the whisper, something real was happening. In Ouagadougou, officials from the ministries of security, transport, health, and infrastructure were meeting to validate a document few outside those rooms had seen. The National Road Safety Strategy for 2026 to 2030. No drama, no big headlines, just a technical workshop. But what was inside that document was enough to change how every Burkina Faso moves on the road. Still, most people didn't know that. All they knew was what they felt on the streets. They saw more talk about speed, more reminders about helmets, more conversations about accidents that had killed neighbors, cousins, friends. Everyone had a story. A brother was hit at night, a child crushed by a truck, a bus that never reached home. Road death wasn't news anymore. It was normal. And that's exactly what made the whispers powerful. Because people could feel that something about this norm was no longer acceptable. Then the first hints began to leak out. Not official announcements, but pieces. Words like radar, video, control rooms. Some said officers would no longer stand on the road. Some said fines would come straight to your phone. Others said it was impossible. Burkina Faso had bigger problems than traffic. But here's what made the rumors stick. Everyone knew how bad things had become. The roads were dangerous. Motorbikes weaved through traffic with no helmets. Trucks flew through villages. Buses raced each other for passengers. At night, darkness swallowed entire stretches of highway. And when crashes happened, help often came too late. People had learned to accept it. That's just how it is. But inside those closed rooms in Ouagadougou, officials were looking at it differently. They weren't seeing accidents. They were seeing a system that was broken. They were asking one question. If more than 1,000 people are dying every year, how long can a state pretend it's just bad luck? So while drivers joked about cameras and fines, a much more serious conversation was happening about numbers, causes, patterns, and failure. And that's the part most people didn't see yet. Because before you build cameras, before you change laws, before you redesign roads, you have to face one thing first: the truth about how deadly your roads really are. So what did the government actually find when it finally stopped treating road crashes as routine and started counting the cost? What numbers forced Burkina Faso to admit that this was no longer just traffic but a national crisis? They found bodies, on paper. Inside that workshop in Ouagadougou, the officials didn't start with speeches. They started with statistics. Cold, unforgiving numbers drawn from years of police reports and hospital records. And when those numbers were laid out, the room went quiet. On average, around 23,000 road accidents occur every year, and more than 1,000 deaths annually, not in a decade, not since independence, every single year. That means almost 3 people are dying on Burkina Faso's roads every day. More than one family every day is losing someone who left home and never came back. And it wasn't just deaths. Tens of thousands more were being injured, with broken legs, crushed arms, damaged spines, brain injuries, and people who would never fully return to the lives they had before. When officials broke the data down, patterns emerged. Most victims were young students, workers, and riders in their 20s and 30s. Most crashes involved motorbikes, the cheapest and most common transport in the country. Speed was everywhere. Helmet use was weak. Nighttime crashes were deadlier. And the worst roads were always the same. Major highways, city exits, dark intersections, village crossings. This wasn't random, it was predictable. And once something is predictable, it becomes preventable. That realization hit hard, because it meant these weren't accidents in the usual sense. They were the outcome of bad road design, weak enforcement, unsafe vehicles, risky behavior, and a slow emergency response, a system failure. That's when the target was set. Reduce road deaths by about 50% by 2030, not 5%. Not a vague, improve safety. Half. It was an aggressive goal, but the logic was simple. If nothing changes, thousands more will die anyway. So why aim small? But setting a target is easy. The real question was how. The data made one thing clear. You can't fix this with posters and slogans. You can't fix it by blaming drivers alone. And you can't fix it with a few extra patrols on weekends. The problem was everywhere, in roads, in vehicles, in habits, in laws, in hospitals. So the response had to be everywhere too. That's when the idea of building a national system took shape. Not just more police, not just better roads, but a framework that controls risk from the moment someone starts a journey to the moment they reach care after a crash. This is where Burkina Faso aligned itself with global thinking, the safe system approach promoted by the United Nations and African road safety bodies. The principle was blunt. People will always make mistakes. So the country must be designed so mistakes don't automatically kill. That meant attacking the problem from all sides at once. And once that decision was made, the strategy stopped being about traffic and started being about rebuilding how movement itself is managed in the country. But systems need tools. And among all the tools discussed, one stood out as the most disruptive. Not roads, not ambulances, not helmets, cameras. So after the numbers exposed the crisis, the next question became unavoidable. What kind of system could control millions of drivers every day without putting a policeman on every single road? The answer Burkina Faso settled on was simple. Let the road watch instead. Inside the strategy, officials confirmed the deployment of video contravention systems and radar-based enforcement. In plain words, cameras and speed detectors that don't sleep, don't argue, and don't miss. This is where the story stops being abstract and becomes very real. The plan is to install speed cameras that use radar or laser to measure how fast vehicles move, red light cameras at intersections to catch those who jump signals, and ANPR cameras, automatic number plate recognition, that read license plates the moment a vehicle passes. Every violation becomes a digital record, the plate number, the location, the time, and a clear image or video clip. No guesswork, no memory, just evidence. Instead of pulling drivers over, these systems send everything to central traffic control rooms. That's where trained officers sit in front of screens, reviewing feeds, validating violations, and feeding them into national databases. So enforcement shifts from roadside confrontations to screen-based decisions. This is not a theory. It's how modern traffic systems work across the world, from North Africa to parts of East Africa and beyond. But here's what matters for Burkina Faso. This changes behavior even before the first fine is issued. Because once drivers believe a camera might be watching, speed drops. People hesitate before running a light. Helmets start appearing, not because of fear of the police, but fear of certainty. And certainty is powerful. Now social media took this and ran wild. Posts claimed cameras would be placed on every highway and every junction, that no road would escape. But here's the reality. No official source has confirmed that scale. What is confirmed is the intention to deploy these systems strategically, especially on major corridors and accident hotspots, a phased rollout. Target the deadliest places first. That makes sense, because even a limited network, if placed smartly, can reshape how people drive across an entire region. And there's another shift hidden in this plan. It's not just about cameras, it's about what happens to the police. Instead of standing for hours in heat and dust, officers are expected to move into traffic management centers, monitoring dashboards, reviewing footage, analyzing patterns, deciding enforcement based on data, not instinct. This doesn't mean patrols disappear, but it does mean the center of gravity moves from the roadside to the control room. And once that happens, traffic enforcement stops being a street activity and becomes a national digital operation. But cameras alone don't punish anyone. They only watch. For them to matter, the law has to accept what they see, which brings us to the next unavoidable step. If a machine catches you breaking the law, who do you argue with? And how does the state make sure that clip actually counts? How will Burkina Faso turn a video file into something powerful enough to fine you in court? Let's pause for a second to say big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. By changing the rules of what counts as truth, inside the strategy, one point is clear. Video-recorded traffic violations will be legally recognized as evidence. That single decision transforms cameras from passive eyes into active instruments of law. Until now, enforcement on Burkina roads has mostly depended on one thing: the word of the officer. If you're stopped, the case is built on what the officer saw and decided. That opens space for arguments, delays, and sometimes bargaining. The new system cuts through all of that. If a camera records you speeding or crossing a red light, the system captures the plate number, the location, the exact second it happened, and a clear image or clip. That digital record is then locked into a central database. From that moment, the story of what happened is no longer told by a person. It's told by the file. For this to work, the law has to evolve. Courts must accept digital footage the same way they accept written reports or eyewitness accounts. That's why the strategy points toward regulatory and legal adaptations, updating traffic codes and procedures so automated enforcement becomes valid and enforceable. Technically, this means building systems that can prove three things: that the video is real, that it hasn't been altered, and that it belongs to the vehicle accused. So every clip must carry timestamps, location data, system IDs, and audit trails showing who accessed it and when. Once stored, it becomes part of a chain of custody that courts can trust. In simple terms, the system must make it impossible to say, "That's not me," or "That file was changed." This is where enforcement becomes relentless. A human officer can forget. A human officer can be distracted. A human officer can be argued with. But the system doesn't blink. And it doesn't care who you are. Once that logic is in place, behavior starts to change even before fines arrive. Because people realize they're no longer dealing with moods, they're dealing with records. And that's the real power of turning code into law. But making the camera a witness raises another question. In the old system, you were stopped, told your mistake, and dealt with it on the spot. In the new system, you might drive home, park, sleep, and only later find out you've been caught. So how does the state tell you? And how does it make sure you actually pay? This is where the story starts colliding with the rumors again. People say your phone will buzz, that fines will reach you instantly. But what's real and what's just talk? Once the camera convicts you, how does Burkina Faso plan to reach you and force compliance? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. This is where the story becomes louder than the facts. On social media, the claim is simple. You broke the rule. Your phone rings. The fine is waiting. It sounds clean, powerful. A state that doesn't chase you, it fines you. But here's the truth buried under the hype. No official source has yet confirmed that Burkina Faso will send automatic fines directly to drivers' phones. What is confirmed is something less dramatic, but far more important. The strategy aims to shift traffic penalties into a centralized digital fine management system. That means every violation captured by cameras and validated in control rooms will enter a national database. From there, a fine is generated automatically. It is linked to the vehicle or driver record. Payment status is tracked. Non-payment is flagged. Repeat offenders are identified, and unresolved cases are sent to the courts. This alone is a massive change, because it ends the old culture of roadside handling, where fines could disappear, be delayed, or be negotiated. Once your case is inside a central system, it doesn't vanish, it waits. Now, could phone notifications come later? Technically, yes. To make that happen, Burkina Faso would need to link vehicle registration databases with phone numbers, connect enforcement systems to telecom SMS gateways, and integrate payments with mobile money platforms like Orange Money or MTN Momo. That's not impossible. Many countries already do it, but until it appears in official documents, it remains a possible future layer, not a confirmed feature. What matters right now is this: the system is designed so that you can't escape by avoiding the officer. Because there may be no officer to avoid. Your obligation doesn't come from a roadside stop. It comes from a record. And once fines are managed digitally, the state can do what it rarely could before: enforce consistency. Every driver is treated the same. Every violation logged. Every unpaid fine counted. And when fines stack up, the pressure grows, from license renewal blocks to court summons to legal penalties. So compliance stops being about fear of a person and becomes about fear of a system that doesn't forget. But there's something important here. Even the most perfect enforcement system in the world doesn't stop all crashes. Machines break. Humans make mistakes. Weather changes everything in seconds. So if cameras fail to prevent a crash, the strategy has one last line of defense: not punishment, no records, but survival. Which brings us to the part of the plan that decides whether someone lives or dies after metal hits flesh. When accidents still happen, how will Burkina Faso make sure victims don't die waiting on the roadside? By turning road safety into a medical race against time. The final pillar of Burkina Faso's strategy is post-crash response, and it may be the most humane part of the entire plan. Because cameras can punish, laws can scare, roads can guide. But only medicine can pull someone back from the edge after a crash. Inside the strategy, road safety is directly linked to emergency medical services and hospitals. The idea is simple: reduce the time between impact and treatment. In practice, this means ambulances that are dispatched faster, clearer communication between police and health services. Rescue teams are trained specifically for road trauma. Hospitals along major corridors are prepared for crash victims, and systems to share crash data so injuries are treated smarter, not just faster. Because today, in many parts of Burkina Faso, victims wait. They wait for someone to stop. They wait for transport. They wait for a hospital bed. And sometimes they don't make it. The strategy recognizes a brutal truth seen across the world. A large share of road deaths happen after the crash, not at the moment of impact. So every minute saved becomes a life saved. And when you connect this to everything that came before, the data, the cameras, the legal reforms, the digital fines, you finally see what Burkina Faso is trying to build. Not just traffic control, a national survival system, one that watches how people move, records when they break the rules, forces accountability through law, and stands ready when things go wrong. This is a huge leap for a country facing many other pressures. It means investing in technology while fighting insecurity, reforming laws while budgets are tight, training officers and doctors at the same time. And that's why, even now, none of this is guaranteed. The strategy is being validated. Documents are being prepared. Timelines will follow. Budgets must be found. Equipment must be bought. People must be trained. Only then will whispers turn into infrastructure. If it works, Burkina Faso could cut road deaths in half by 2030. If it fails, the numbers that started this story will keep climbing. So in the end, after all the rumors, meetings, systems, and promises, everything comes down to one final question. Will Burkina Faso actually build this machine to protect its people? Let us know in the comment section. Will the cameras remain a story people once told about roads that never changed? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.